Mm. Good day, everybody.
It's actually recording now?
Yeah, it's recording.
Why? I don't know what we're going to talk about yet.
We don't know what we're going to talk about, but we thought we would do a video with you, and we were just laughing because we just figured out new features on our phone that if we put our hand up, it takes a picture of us, or if we put our hand up, it turns
Every time
on.
I lifted my hand to do this, another picture.
Anyway, so then he was like trying it all out with different hand signals and trying to figure it out. Anyway, we had a good laugh.
I think we're smarter now.
And he filled up his phone, so because of that, we can only do a short little video for y'all.
So that's it for today. See you guys. God bless you. Bye.
We are back again.
We're back again. Mm-hmm. All right, you are here. Obviously, there's wouldn't see me. Good afternoon.
Yes, it is afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. You are with Arend and Anneesa.
Countryside Corners.
On Countryside. We got 2 channels. If you don't know that, check us out on Countryside Acres. We've got lots of farm stuff there, and will be much more coming in the future as we develop our farm.
This is true.
We've been asked to do a bunch of different podcasts, or talks, I guess, about all sorts of different topics, but one of the people who were very interested in was family life, families. So we're going to do that.
Yeah, parenting in general.
Yeah. So, quarreling. Do we ever fight?
We disagree.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
We disagree sometimes, and
it's because I'm right and you're wrong.
Basically, that's what it goes down to.
And I've got that on camera. Love it.
That's what he thinks anyway.
I love it. No, it's on camera. You can't edit it out.
No,
it has to stay on camera. I got it admitted.
Yeah,
how many guys out there are like, anyway, carry on.
Yes, we quarrel. Well, we disagree. We don't really fight.
Really
like we don't raise our voices or any of that stuff.
I think part of it's how we solve problems.
I feel like in our relationship, it has always been that if something is going wrong, it's his fault. No. No, that we have to work on ourselves. And he would agree with this completely. If he starts pointing out all my faults and I start pointing out all his faults and I don't have any faults. Yeah, he's pretty perfect. We all know that. Anyway, if I start pointing out what is wrong with him and he starts pointing out what is wrong with me, it brings a divide between us and it actually makes matters worse. So years and years and years ago, we started realizing that we just work on ourselves and do the best we can on ourselves.
100%.
And the odd time, obviously, if I'm going in the wrong direction or vice versa.
We have to hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
But for the most part, other than a reminder, I should fix myself. And you should fix yourself.
Absolutely. So I think we read a book years ago. It was the Love Dare. I think that was the big
through the
one.
church we were going through. There was like
it was like
seminar on it or something.
Yeah. Well, we did. And then there was the movie, The Love Dare. It was a Christian movie that came out. But then with that came a book that came along. And it was a 30-day challenge that if you loved your partner, you would take the 30-day challenge, and by the end of it, you would love your partner even more. It was really, really neat. Kind of like a diary style or devotion, I guess. And then every day you would do something special for your spouse. And I really think that's really showed us how to
basically living for the other person.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that he gets to do whatever he wants and he can treat me horrible or vice versa. But it was like if I wanted to do other things for him, then it automatically, it kind of snowballed. Like it would make him love me more. And I said that years ago to him. Also, I said to him, like, listen, you are the head of the home. And yes, I'm, supposed to be under you. But in the same sense, we are the one. He treats me so good, and when he treats me good and he spoils me and he treats me so kindly, I automatically want to do nice things for him, right? And it just comes full circle.
Yeah, vice versa, same thing.
Yeah, so
I think that's probably why most marriages struggle. Is because, well, I think 100% is because of selfishness.
Yeah.
The son old children, I always come back to that in the JOY. Jesus first, yourself last. This works in English. I have no idea how it works in Russian, but J-O-Y, J-O-Y.
Is joy. And
J for
Jesus first,
Jesus,
and then
others,
others,
and then yourself is last.
Yeah.
So I have to put me last. Jesus always comes first. God always comes first.
Mhm.
We put ourselves last, and
Yeah.
we put the other people in between. Everybody, and especially in marriages.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the whole point of that Love There book as well, is because he stopped putting what he wanted first. He just read the book, and the book says, buy your wife flowers. Doesn't matter whether
whether she's even her response. Like, you might buy her flowers, and she might throw them in the garbage as soon as you give them, but you're still going to give her flowers.
On that day of this diary, you're supposed to give her flowers.
Yeah. And then, like, the next day, you're supposed to give her something else. Or the next day, you're supposed to, like, hold.
And by doing those acts
door open for her.
Selflessness, putting yourself last, basically, it won in this movie. I mean, every scenario is different, but in this movie, it won over his spouse. And he actually started realizing that the reason his marriage was falling apart wasn't all his wife's fault. After all, a lot of it was his, and vice versa, whatever the situation. So
right.
So do we quarrel? That was the point, though.
Yeah, I think we have disagreements,
but not like in a bad way.
No, we many years ago decided that we were going to be on the same team, and that might not always look like it.
Well, thankfully, we already kind of were when we met. Like, we want the same
but when
things.
we first got together, we weren't Christians, so it was really hard for us in our marriage because we didn't have God in our lives. So it was really hard. And I remember you saying to me,
okay, before that, we had the foundations that were the same. We wanted the same things out of life. We're just both headstrong.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yes.
We had the same. So I think it's very important to marry someone who you actually agree with, who grew up very similar to
what do you mean by
similar culture.
Yeah, okay. Elaborate
similar culture. Like, our homes were, although I grew up in a different, like a church setting that was not like your home setting, we still grew up very similar. Mom and dad were both home. Dad worked. Mom took care of the kids for the most part. Yeah. Right. Mom did the cooking, cleaning. Dad did the stuff outside the home. We had a lot of similarities in our growing up that way. That if you come
so
from
my
two different
dad went
settings,
to work, and my mom still stayed home when I was younger, and
that's what you wanted, right? So when we met, you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I wanted a wife that stayed home with the kids. You wanted a husband that goes to work. I wanted to go to work. We both wanted to farm if possible, and we had a lot of those same interests. And I think that's core to starting on the firm foundation. A lot of people, I think, get together or marry because she's pretty or he's handsome.
Yeah. And people don't realize that they age and get old.
If she married me for my brown hair, it's quickly turning gray. So now all of a sudden there's no reason to love me anymore, right? And I think that's really, really dumb. You need to marry for good foundational principles that are the same. But then the challenges still come. So we were not Christian when we met. Even though I went to church, I was not a Christian at heart. And so there was definitely challenges.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And you got growing pains in any relationship. There's always growing pains. So like at our beginning of our relationship, there was growing pains, trying to figure out, how to live together, how to be a proper wife, how to be a proper husband, those type of things. But then slowly but surely children came and but we always decided that we weren't going to be those people. I've known people that their families yelled and hollered and things like that, and there's just no need for it. Right? We discussed it and talked about it. And also I find myself sometimes when we are having a hard time, I am nitpicky and kind of critiquing him. And that's when, or vice versa, and then that's when things get really, really hard. But if we privately talk about it, right?
So that's the next thing. I think this was the question we were going to, tangled up here, was if the kids argue, I think, but the whole household, I think it all ties together, which is the whole point, right? So if we do have an argument or fight, we don't fight. No, but if we have a disagreement about something, it's very important as husband and wife not to do that in front of the kids and not to use them as weapons in it, because there's nothing to do with them. If her and I don't agree on a subject, that should be handled privately, because we have to show a united front in front of the children. Children are awesome at figuring stuff out. They ain't stupid.
And I feel like
if there's a divide, they'll try to pop in between and play one off the other. And that's kind of natural human behavior to some degree. If we model proper behaviors, then that also comes out in the kids. And so do the kids argue a lot? No. I mean, sure, of course they have disagreements. That's my bike. You can't touch it. I want it. And those are then opportunities to teach. And also opportunities to look at themselves and like, man, that sounded just like me.
Yes, we get that a lot.
Do I sound that bad? So we all have it. You have times where we're just busy or we're stressed, and then the kids get annoying, and you say something to the kid. Later on, you hear the kid say that to another kid, and you're like, "That's terrible! Talk like that." And then they kind of look at you, and you're like, "Oh, you learned that from me." So, but we have to work together, and for one, us being on the same page, being on a team together, is super important. But then, as a family, we want to be on the same page, and that's where dialogue comes in as well. We need to discuss it with them. If there's a kid that's super duper moody for some reason, then we should probably figure out what's going on.
Yep.
And vice versa. If my wife doesn't want to talk to me for some reason, I should probably go figure out what did I do.
Yeah. He's not always observant in that matter.
No. My life's pretty black and white. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
So yes, they argue. Everybody argues. And I think part of it's normal. I think it's part of good human development. Not arguing.
Arguing is such a horrible word.
Disagreeing.
It's disagreeing. Yeah, we don't.
Because
really
I think if somebody disagrees with everything you say, that's not healthy. Everybody has opinions. God made us all unique and different, and we all have strengths and weaknesses. We all have likes and dislikes. And so, what I like isn't always necessarily what she likes. Like I like coffee. She does not like coffee at all.
And he's never been able to make me like coffee.
No, and you love strawberries.
Yes.
I can't stand strawberries.
And I don't like raspberries. Oh.
And I love raspberries. So I mean. That's perfectly normal. It's not necessarily a disagreement. I guess if we wanted to, no, raspberries are the best. No, strawberries are the best. But you just overlook that. And as humans, we have to leave room for other people's likes and dislikes as Christians.
I think also being able to grow, like you said, in Christianity, realizing that we're on the same page is a big one, right? Like I know when we first got together, I was always like, I guess I always had this fear in my mind that it wasn't going to work out. So it's like you try to like attack before you be attacked, right? And he used to say, "I'm not out to get you. I'm not out to get you." And now I look at it as
because of past experiences you'd had, right? So.
Yeah, but it was like you would always be like, "Stop it! I'm not out to get you." And it was like it really made it realize that we are on the same team. Why am I angry or bitter, or why am I taking out anything on you, right? Realizing that, we are on the same team. And I try to say that with our children a lot too, right? It's like, we're not out to get you, right? Because at the end of the day, we want what is best for you. And, obviously kids going through challenges through their, young teenage stages, right, in life, they have different thoughts in their head. They need to realize that you're not out to get them and we have disagreements, and that's okay. We need to talk it through and discuss things.
What about full blown out fights? I don't think any of our kids. I mean, I've seen some families do that, and they like. Remember that one family? The one kid had done something to the other kid, and then the second kid who had got hurt, he was then chasing after the first kid with a shoe or something. He was going to hit him hard, and the mom and dad were just standing there watching him run in the yard, and we're thinking, "You're not going to do something about this." And then finally, the second kid caught up to the first one. Wham! And then the mom finally said, "All right, now you got him and you're even. That's enough." And I'm like,
you're even.
Anyway, I don't think our kids have ever.
Family has a temper. I just feel like children on their own will have a temper sometimes. You just have to work them through those areas of their lives. I think Finley is our boy right now, and Eli. They can have tempers. Well, I think they're
little, I guess. I mean,
I think they all could have it if they get frustrated.
Ben got mad and tossed his toys, kind of thing. But I mean,
but
like
again,
to each other.
A frustration.
My brothers and I used to like fight. I got quite a scar on my elbows that went through a window.
Yeah, we don't allow that. No, we don't allow that behavior.
I remember two of my brothers throwing fists at each other.
Yeah, and I just think that's so ridiculous.
I remember hearing a story about one brother chasing the other one with a pitchfork because he was mad.
I grew up in a family of girls, and yes, we quarreled. My one sister in particular was not very nice to me, and then we had good fights too. But no, I just don't allow it.
So why don't ours fight?
I don't allow it.
If it's normal, you grew up with girls, you said, so you're obviously making the distinction of boys and girls. So why don't ours do?
Ours were more like girly fights, not like physically always, but it was more like with words, not kind to each other.
Right, but why don't our boys fight?
Well, they have their disagreements.
No fists.
Oh, I don't allow that.
That's why.
I don't allow that at all.
And I think That was weird for me.
There's
When we
no
first
need
got
for it.
together, I was used to. I mean, it's a bunch of boys. We just fight once in a while.
No, even playing war, I never allowed the kids
Right?
play
We
war.
played war all the time.
Cops and robbers.
So for us, I mean, every household's different. I guess when I say that, I think everybody knows. But in our barn, we had an awesome barn with a big hay mow, very Western, and we. I have 6 brothers, and we'd have friends over all the time, and we would play war in there. So you'd have 2 teams basically fighting against each other with like fake guns, not real, even just your hand, whatever. And you'd have 2 different teams. It might be a capture the flag type thing, or you'd have to capture the enemy, and then you'd have them in a jail. And anyway, kind of like cops and robbers. Some people play cowboys and Indians, whatever you want to call it. But we played war a lot, and it got pretty physical sometimes. But you never allowed that, and so to me, it was normal growing up. And then Anneesa and I got together, and she's like, "No guns."
No.
No guns. What are you talking about? What's wrong with a boy having a gun? But now I think about it. I'm like, that's not really normal for your kid to run around and shoot somebody. Like, why would you want to play a game where you're killing other people? That's not
right.
Really
it's like
behavior.
If you want your child to grow up to be a criminal, then you can let them shoot each other. Yeah, for sure. You're training them to be a criminal and to think it's normal to kill another human.
If you see anybody out there that's not behaving properly, it's because they weren't raised properly. And more think of that. Like, there should be structure in the home.
Right, but even physically beating each other. I say to my children when they behave poorly, I say to them, would your father behave like that? And they stop. I'm like, can you honestly believe that your father would like drop on the floor and scream bloody blue murder like that? And they'll be like, stop. And they look at me, no. So why would you do it? Right? Like, we're raising men. We're not raising.
So us as parents have to be model citizens, which we're not always, but I mean, we're supposed to be. Model behavior, modeling the behavior to the children and being an example, and then also setting in limitations. So for one, no guns. Guns are for hunting. We don't shoot people with them. I mean, in war, it unfortunately has to happen, but as a rule, we shouldn't be running around teaching our kids to shoot each other. It's just not a good idea. And same thing, some of the other play activity that might happen is just not behavior that's should be condoned.
Physically beating each other, I don't think it's right.
If our children have a problem,
to do that?
I've sat them down before and said, okay, we'll discuss it out. What's the issue? What problem do you have? What problem do you have? Why don't you guys sort this out? You just use words and talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that approach makes a big difference as well, because then they realize that, okay, that's a better approach than smacking each other with a 2x4. Right.
Yeah, I think so. That's just my take on it.
Less hard on the brains too.
And less furniture broken and windows and all that other stuff as well. I don't know. Same with I don't believe in anybody shooting an animal uselessly, right?
Yeah.
They're some people were upset over these foxes being shot and stuff too. And part of me was too, because, well, they're just doing what they're instinctively meant to do, right? Like, that's just their normal. But it obviously is our livelihood, so we need to make a living. But I wouldn't just aimlessly go to the bush and kill a fox that was not hurting my animals.
Birds too. I know lots of boys growing up, they would just shoot. Yeah,
with a pellet gun, just
shoot sparrows, swallows, pigeons.
And I'm like, are you going to eat that?
If it moves, they'd shoot it.
Right? Like, why would you kill it if you're not going to eat it?
Right. If it's not harming you and it's not harming your animals and you're not going to eat it, then you shouldn't kill it.
Right.
We don't allow our children to do. I don't even let them kill a mouse for no reason. Like, if it's not bothering anybody, they're all good animals for your environment.
Yeah.
Some people made that comment. You brought about the foxes, right? Like, well, they're good. Yeah, and we wouldn't kill them either.
Not
the only foxes or raccoons that I would kill on our last farm are the ones that get into our stuff.
Yeah.
If they're out in the bush, I'm not going to go out there and kill them. They're minding their own business, doing their thing.
Right. Same with bears. Like, if bears, some people live in areas where the bears are. If the bears are just wandering through and they're not, but if they become a problem, right? They constantly come every night and start to know that that's a feed spot. You would try to get rid of the food source, obviously, if you have a garbage laying around. But if they start breaking into your buildings and start, then they would become a problem bear. And they've already trained their mind to know that there's a food source there. So they'll just keep coming back. So if you can't relocate them, then you would have to get rid of them. And that's the only time I would.
So we've always stuck to that. We don't allow our kids to just destroy. Same with tree branches. I see kids wrecking trees all. What for? What is that tree doing to you? If you need the tree for firewood, cut it down. If you need it for a Christmas tree or whatever you want to do, cut it down, do your thing. But you don't just aimlessly go out and start hacking apart a tree. I don't understand why kids do that. I don't understand why parents allow that. It's destructive behavior.
I was going to say, I think it's just destructive behavior. It comes back to respect, really, to things and belongings.
And it's our job to teach them to respect people's property and yeah, training, model behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So do they argue? Yeah, a little bit, but nothing severe.
I think they disagree.
And we try
sometimes.
to keep it to a limit and try to teach them to talk it about.
Yeah.
They never full out fight.
No.
And neither do we.
No. And I think, like, when we were kids in school, we would have, like, what is it called when you, like, acting out things?
Role play?
Yeah, role playing. We had role playing. So in the same sense as we try to encourage them, not role playing, but they're working with each other.
All right, I want you to pretend to fight him.
No, but we don't, not physically. But if it's the same idea, it's like, okay, well, what did he say to you? And then, you know, the other child says, well, he said this, and then you say, okay, well, what should you say to him? So you're teaching and try to encourage the child to, you know, speak properly.
In order to do that, and we can discuss this on another topic, but it's very important that you train your child to actually sit still and listen. I see so many children that cannot sit through simple instructions. They're just constantly dancing and dancing around.
Yeah,
and that
should be another podcast training. Completely.
It's partially diet, but it's also massively poor training. You need to teach your children to sit and listen. It's very important because they're going to grow up to be adults, as we all should be, and then every behavior you see as a child, would you want to see an adult behaving that way? Would you want to go to the bank and see the bank manager behaving like that? Do you want to see your politicians behaving like that? I'm not saying some of them don't, but do you want to see that? And no, of course not. The answer would be no. No, you want them to be responsible. Then it's your job to teach them to be responsible. And attention span, sitting
our job
still.
To teach them to not argue and disagree.
That's right.
Behave properly.
There you go.
I think that's a good one.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We are going to do more chats about different things. Shoot comments down below, of course, always. If there's questions, topic that you want to hear our opinion on, let us know. Shoot it down in the comments. Check out the links down below as well. There's links to our other channels. And isn't there?
Maybe we should put them up.
Maybe there should be. But we do have another YouTube channel. You probably already know that. And Telegram.
My hat's dirty.
Subscribe to Telegram. If something ever happens to YouTube, we have a large Telegram following. We'd love to have you over there. We regularly update it with photos, pictures of life, everyday life. And if something happens, we will let you know there, basically. So, can we post videos on that thing? I think we can, eh?
Small ones.
We probably could at some point. But right now, there's no videos, just pictures. So we got it.
Sounds good.
All right. God bless you guys. Have a great week. Talk to you later.